Okay, I'm gonna do a video. We're sitting here and what am I gonna do a video on, Paul? And he's like, I don't know. We've been talking about a lot of things. What are you gonna do a video on? And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm, but there's a lot of things I need to do a video on. So we're gonna do a video. Um, who knows what I'm going to name this once it's done. I was saying that I need to do a video on something. I'm going to try to get Catherine on pretty soon, and we're going to discuss bloodlines and um, psychic powers and things. So be looking for that because we've come up with a couple of different um, theories that I need you guys. I need your input on. So I I don't think I even did a video last week. It was great. I've been sewing. I've got fabric all over the place. So I'm making um paper bags got popcorn in it. We like our popcorn in paper bag. Um so um yeah, I'm making trench coats for birthdays and I'm already late for three. And then I've got grandbaby that just turned one and I don't have his birthday present done yet. He's not missing it. He's okay. So anyway, I'm running late. There's a whole bunch of birthdays. We've got one, two, three, four, five, like six birthdays within a month's time, right here at the beginning of the year, and it throws me for a loop. Yep, we gotcha. Paul. He does not like to be on video. I usually have, the background blurred or some, fancy thing in the background. Yeah, there's been a lot going on. So not only am I taking on a very large project of sewing trench coats, and I keep getting sidetracked with other projects that, and then the magazine, the tech monsters were going berserko with the magazine this last it's been nutty. I've been trying to figure out things and we've been gradually getting things figured out and it's been crazy. It's been absolutely just weird with all of the stuff. So we had this I shared a thing this morning. I don't even know where I'm going. I shared a thing this morning and a video, and hopefully I'll post this afternoon, probably. It's Tuesday. Um, and about what was it, Rich Man, Poor Man, or whatever. It's a book, and this girl had done a summary of what was in the book and thinking like a quote unquote rich man. Well, it threw me into, I made about halfway through the video. Okay. And I had already shared the video and it's a good video. She did an excellent job explaining. And so I just join me and we're just having I've already had my coffee and I'm trying to back off, so I'm drinking water. Welcome into my abode. And, this is the way it is. Anyway, I made it about halfway through the video and I'm like, okay, here's the thing. Because I am trying to do the online stuff to help bring in money. And some people think if you put videos on YouTube, you've got to be rich or something. And that is not the case at all. The most I have, quote unquote, made off of a video is $15. And it takes me at least an hour. I mean, even if it's just a 15-minute video, it takes me at least an hour to do all the preparation beforehand and then the things that I have to do afterwards to get it out to people. So it, $15 an hour isn't much. Okay. If that's only how long it takes. So if it's a longer video, if it's more in depth, if I'm doing more research or whatever, it's taken longer. That particular video, I think, took at least 2 hours, at least. Okay. So, that's more like $7 an hour, 7.50 an hour, right? Um, that's not much. That's not going to pay the internet bill. It's just not. I can't do enough videos in a day to make the kind of money that I would need to make to do that. Okay. And somebody with a whole bunch more followers, the more followers you get, the less income you make off of each video. I mean, or off of however many views you get, because it depends on how many people view the video and how long they view the video and all of this kind of stuff, how much they give. So the more there is, the less it makes. So it's not that you can make a hunk of money off of a video. It's just you have to put a lot more work into it and you have to get a lot of followers and all of this stuff. Anyway, I know poor Shelly over at There's No Place Like Home gets accused of, making a hunk ton of money and being a professional actress. I think was one of the most recent that she was in some TV show or something. Somebody's like, oh, she was in an episode such and so of such and such TV show. You tell me how she, mother of 12, uh, homeschool mom, has the time to be in some kind of a TV show. I just, the last homeschool family that we saw do something like that, things didn't turn out well. Okay. So, nah, that's not happening. Um, so anyway, uh, yeah. So going through this video, and it's, how to change your mindset from poor person to rich person. And you get about halfway through the video, and they're talking about the difference between assets and expenses. Okay. So assets aren't income. So we tend to think, we've been taught to think the difference between income and expenses, right? And we make the income to pay the expenses, and then we go around the circle, right? Um, and I will say that the mindset does help. Okay. We're poor people here, just period. We are. All of our vehicles are old. Our sidings coming off of our house, um, our shingles don't match on our roof. It is, we're poor people here, and I'm okay with it. I'm wealthy in other ways other than money, and I don't care to be a rich person, right? But we get about halfway through that video, and I'm realizing what the disconnect is between some of these people who are teaching people how to be rich and Bible. Okay. And the Bible took God, our creator, our Yahweh, Yahuwah, whatever you want to call him. Okay. You know who I'm talking about. So don't come at me. Don't come at me. Our creator took Adam and Eve and put them in a garden. Okay. And then whenever he had to send them out of the garden, he told them they're going to work by the sweat of their brow. All right. So you're getting the idea that you have to make money work for you instead of you working for money is okay in one sense. But if you've got the idea that you're not going to have to work and you're just going to be on vacation for the rest of your life and your money is going to work for you, you don't have a biblical perspective just out of the get-go. Okay. Um, you, it, I don't know what more I could say on that. I don't. Um, you need, we need assets, okay? And we've got to start with seeing what those assets are for each one of us. And biblically speaking, God put people in, our creator put people in a agricultural setting, okay? And he encouraged throughout the Bible to be in an agricultural setting. Well, if you're in an agricultural setting, uh, because I've got people not wanting to go behind me because I don't have it. Okay. It's blurred. Nobody can see you now. You don't have to crawl on the floor. you're still going to crawl on the floor. The dog likes you crawling on the floor with him. Okay, so, oh Lordy, pray for me. You should have tossed a toy and he would have followed that. Ah, Opie. Now he's under my feet. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, this is just going to be one of those videos. I'm sorry. Um, our creator consistently encouraged an agricultural setting. In an agricultural setting, or in any setting, okay, what do we need to survive? And I just break this down to the basics. What do we need to survive? We need um, water is very important. Uh, clothing, covering, uh, shelter, and food to eat. Okay. And you can go for periods of time without each one of those, but generally speaking, you need to have those. Um, you need to be covered, sheltered, fed, and have water. Okay, hydrated. So let's think about those things basic first. First of all, you're always going to have to eat. All right. Now, God provides the water. However, He provides that. We can't make water. We can't grow water, right? So that is something we just need to be, grateful for and make sure it's clean. But food, clothing, and shelter are things that we have to come up with ourselves, basically. Not that He doesn't provide, but we have to do our part of that, right? And food is something we are always going to have to buy or grow, put in work for. Okay. We're going to have to put in work for food. So I have a hard time seeing some of these things as an expense. You know what I mean? Because it's something we need to live off of. And if you see everything in a black and white of these, or black and red in this instance, of assets versus expenses, income versus expenses, then you are in danger of seeing people in your family, in yourself, as a burden because they cause expense, right? And that should not be. So we should be able to see our families and ourselves as assets. And so it's a little different thing there, right? Um, and then homes. He in the video at that point, whenever I lost it, and the rest of the video is good. So get past the 15-minute time, go ahead and watch the whole video. But and I'll put a link below just in case you didn't see that in the community stuff. Um, but he was saying that your home is not an asset, it's an expense. And the reason that she was saying he says this, because it was like third person, um, is that you have to pay taxes and whatnot on that house, which is true. Even if you own your home, which we do, we don't have any debt. Okay, that's part of the reason that the siding needs to be replaced and flooring and anyway, it's in the state that it's in. It's over 100-year-old house and it needs a lot of repair and maintenance. So you have repair and maintenance that need to be done on the home. You have property taxes that you have to pay on the home. But while I see that, I don't see it as a liability or an expense. I see it as an asset. And I would argue with him and other, people that talk about this kind of stuff that the really, really rich people see it that way too, or they wouldn't own several homes. Okay. I don't know how long it's taken me to get to this point, but think about it. The really, really rich people have several homes. They have huge, extravagant homes in different places around the world, not even close together. It doesn't make sense if you're going to consider that a an expense, a um, if you're not going to set it, consider it an asset, why would you have, so many in different places? And unless you're, giving, uh, having tours of them and stuff, I know that happens, people use lending them as tours or summer homes for other people and things like that. So you can make money off of additional homes, right? But that's not always the case, and they still see them as an asset. And part of that is, you can sell it for money, right? If needed, or you want to, or whatever. Um, but I think we need to think about what is an asset, what is not. We're not living in the type of economic system that we think we're living on. Like, we're not even living in the type of government system that we tend to think we're living in. And the youngsters these days has got everything all upside down in what they think the economic and government systems are that we have and what they think they want. Okay. We live in a feudal system. That's what it is. I was trying to think of that word earlier today. I'm like, what is the word for that? We're basically living in a feudal system. And my thought is, okay, medieval feudal system where we've got lords that own big pieces of land and everybody else is a serf or a peasant working for the lord of the. That is, if you think about it, that is really what we are doing, is it not? Because these corporations are basically the lords, the people who, because it's all the same people that have these corporations and stuff. And then even in like the quote unquote corporate farming, which be careful with that thinking, because there most farmers today are incorporated, no matter how big or small they are. So saying corporate farm and trying to make legislation against the corporate farms can end up hurting smaller farmers as well, because they're incorporated, for tax purposes to try to help with that. We had been incorporated not as a farm, but as Paul's electrical business for a while, and we were convicted that that was not what we needed to, so we unincorporated. So we are not incorporated anymore. The farm has always been homestead in under homestead exemption. So, there are different ways to go about that. And of course, the young people these days don't understand those kinds of tax situations, the different tax forms. They should have to learn what all the different tax forms are and why there are the different tax forms and what the exemptions and stuff are, because I think it would give them um, a better concept of whenever somebody says we need to tax the rich and we need the rich to pay their fair share and blah 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 blah. Well, let's just say you tax some big, pick one, okay? Pick a big corporate person that you can think of in your mind. I know you can think of a couple. Think of one, just one name. And if he had to pay $50,000 tax, just $50,000, okay? What's he going to do? Is he just going to fork that out and hand it over to the government and not think a thing about it? No, he's not. He's going to fire somebody. Somebody's going to lose their job. So who actually pays for that tax? We're going to tax the rich, but who actually ends up paying for that? The person who lost their job. Not only that, they want to make up for that. So then they will raise rates on whatever it is that they've got. They'll raise prices. So if they raise half a penny on what they're selling, they're going to make a ton more money. Okay. So I don't know why the youngsters today can't see that. I don't even know why some of the older people today can't see that. The tax the rich, you know, what that it doesn't work that way. And anybody who's been in business and had an employee knows that, should know that, right? So, who are the ones that are saying tax the rich? Most of them are government employees. They're teachers and government employees. They're the ones that are saying tax the rich because they do not understand this simple concept, right? So, yeah. Anyway, watch that video. Have your children watch that video. Um, I'm going to get the book. It's like $7 for the mass paperback. I'm going to see if it's even available in audio. As a matter of fact, I know it's available in audio, and I think I've got a credit, an Audible credit, so I think I'm going to get that so that we can just listen to it as a family. Um, because the concept, the girl doing the summary video, like I said, I'll put the link below. She said she wished she would have read that book when she was 14 or 15 years old. Okay, so that gives you an idea. If you're homeschool parent, put this on the curriculum list. Your 14, 15-year-olds need to read this book. Okay. Get the audio and listen to it with everybody 12 and over. As far as I'm concerned, whenever they turn 12, they're youth. And that's whenever I start talking to them about how the government works, how economics work, how finances work, and have them start helping with the business in one way, shape, or form. Period. End of story. That's how I do that. They start learning about the Constitution and what it says, what it says, and all of that, and the the Federalist Papers and Anti-Federalist Papers required in my homeschool. Okay, so anyway, that it was really good, and later in the video, she was talking about. I mean, she goes through his main points in his book, and she's saying how he suggested getting a second job for the experience because it's the experience. Assets are skills, experience, knowledge. Okay, those are things the government can't even tax. Okay, they can't tax your experience, they can't tax your knowledge. They can't tax your skills. Now, they can tax how you use your skills because my husband has to pay for a license and he has to get continuing education and all of that kind of stuff. So they can tax you for using your skills. There's issues with that. And in the state of Oklahoma, babysitters are supposed to be licensed. The license is a tax. Okay. So, I mean, it's just revenue to the state. The state doesn't care if you're safe or not. I mean, they don't want to have to deal with somebody crying to them because something bad's happened, obviously. And I'm not saying some of the legislators don't want people to be hurt, right? So they want people to be safe and, grow up to be good taxpayers or whatever. But generally speaking, the government in and of itself doesn't care. It's just a revenue thing. It's this income expense thing, right? And if we think about it, our own government has the wrong attitude about wealth, and it's not being run like a rich man. It's being run like a poor man. It's so once you watch the video, you'll understand what I'm saying, right? And that's if we could change everybody's perspective on that. They can't see it now. It's fuzzy. They if we could change everybody's perspective, if we could teach the young people, it would only take a generation for if we could get people to understand how this works. But I had to just kind of put in we need a biblical perspective on this because going directly from the way she was doing the summary on this book and the way I've heard so many of these kinds of teachers teach is, you're sitting in the suburbs, you've got a job or a business in the city, and, you know, you have a real estate company or whatever, or you're a real estate agent or whatever, and you're sitting in the city and you're just consuming and accumulating. Okay. That's not biblical. All right. Biblically speaking, I mean, yes, there were masons and carpenters, and obviously, right, in the Bible. So there were other things, but generally speaking, what was the carpenter building most of the time? Probably things for the shepherds and the farmers, right? Um, Maybe you had merchants and you had the caravans that would trade in goods from country to country and stuff like that. So I mean there's that type of thing, but generally speaking, what do we need again? We need, food, water, and shelter and clothing, right? You grow, I mean, cotton, flax, and wool are the basics for clothing, right? Maybe bamboo or hemp in some cases, right? But generally speaking, plants and animals create our clothing, or they should. Um, that's a whole nother thing. And I've got a plan. I've got a thought. Anyway, but and then our food, your vegetables and your meat, and however prefer with that. Um, so yeah, I we need to keep that in mind. It's not that it's unbiblical to live in town or anything. It just wasn't encouraged to live in town. It was encouraged to have a field, to have a vineyard, to have sheep, goats or whatever. It was encouraged to uh, to have those things and to work in the field, basically. So yeah, you need some of the other stuff as well. I mean, my husband's an electrician. He's not a farmer. He's not a farmer. He's an electrician. Okay. His dad was an electrician before him. Now his parents were farmers. So, you know, kind of lost that along the way. We've got a little farm for Oklahoma. Ours is tiny. Our little spot of land. It for Oklahoma, this isn't enough really to, for us to be self-sufficient off of. Uh, Not for Oklahoma. But um anyway, it was also suggesting, your skills and stuff, and that getting a second job. So, we have two sons that, and they both have, one has a temporary job right now and the other one has a part-time job. And I've been thinking, and I think it's the Lord's prompting, that one of our sons needs to get a second job. And I fight with myself on that. I'm like, well, he could just go full time, right? But this video helped me understand where that thought process was coming from, because the job that he's got right now, he is gaining not only skills, he's also gaining a reputation in town. I'm known as his mom in town now. I've always been Paul's wife, and that's why on my Facebook it's Dawnita Paul's wife, so that people know who I am. But now I'm starting to be known as his mom. Uh, and I just think that's kind of cool, and everybody's like, oh, we just like him so much. And, you know, that's awesome. If he got a second job, which I'm going to talk to him about, then he could get something, completely different. Number one, that's good for the community, for the businesses in the community, because if they hire you full time, they are required to give you benefits. Okay, benefits that our family just is not interested in for the most part. Okay, we do our own retirement. We're not interested in insurance. So, we're just not interested in that stuff. We've got other ways that we do that. So, it would save two businesses in town having to have a full-time employee, right? And it would give him another set of skills and experience. And that's going to be great because at this point, he's gaining such a reputation in the community that he could start a business and people would trust him, and it's the more he does it, the better it's going to be. Our other son, very, very similar, very similar. So, yeah. And we just live in an area. If you live in a very, very rural area, a lot of people think they live in the boonies and they have no idea what the boonies are. Okay. And that we are 3 hours away from the nearest anything. I mean, we're 3 hours away from the nearest Target. I haven't been to Target for eons. I never liked going there anyway. Wouldn't shop there now if I was there. But that's just one that, I've never been in a Costco in my life. I don't think I've ever been in a Kroger's. I mean, it just kind of, IKEA, have no clue, none of that kind of stuff is, and those are like just things that popped into my mind that I hear a lot of people say, they stopped into such and so and got such and such. And I'm like, must be nice, right? And no, actually, I'm pretty happy where I'm at. But yeah, we're 3 hours from like anything. Okay. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But whenever you live out in an area like this, that's kind of uh we don't have those conveniences. And then the jobs that are needed out here, the work that is needed to be done, it you need to be almost a jack of all trades. You need to have several different skills, be able to do several different things out here in order to make a living. So that's part of the reason that I do what I do online. Number one, I can do it from home, you know. I've done a couple of multi-level marketing businesses, but notoriously you need to go out somewhere and do parties. And after you've had several children, it just doesn't become conducive. And with the price of fuel, and so far that you have to drive to do that kind of stuff at this point, it doesn't make sense for me anymore. So the online stuff is the way I try to, help pay some bills. And I've got several things that I do that with. Um, by the way, I've got a new book out. Ah, commercial break. The introductory to the Feast of the Lord. What did I call that? I don't remember what I called it. No. Let's see. What did I call my book? Oh, there's probably a faster way to do this. Trying to type with one hand. What's it called? Hebrew Feasts Explored. Memorials and rehearsals for today's believers. Yeah, it's a new book out. It's free on Kindle Unlimited if you're interested. If you're in the community, you can get the PDF. I think I might not have it up there yet, but I will have. It's $7.77 in paperback. It's so hard trying to decide how to price stuff like this. So anyway, it's just a little thing. But if you would like to support what I do, you can look me up on Amazon and I've got several things there. And even if you do the Kindle Unlimited thing, I get a little bit out of that, and that's kind of nice. So, and Purim is coming up, and that one I got out last year, believe it or not. And so the Purim one is out. The Purim is actually the last one in the series. This one that just came out, the Hebrew Feast Explored, is the first one in the series. So, and I'm hoping I will have them all out by the end of the year. And then, yeah, yeah. So it's going to be a series of like 8 books, I think, is what I'm doing. I'm having trouble keeping up with myself, guys. So, anyway, I think that was basically what I was wanting to. I would love to have more discussion on this and see once you guys watch the video, that she did. And like I said, I'll leave the link in the comments or in the description. Let me know what you think. How do you feel about that? Because that was the only thing that I really saw that, well, if you have a biblical perspective, then you are going to see your home as an asset. You're going to see your family as assets. I think those are important because if we get too concerned about gathering wealth or assets or whatever, we can end up greedy and we don't want to do that. Okay. And we don't want to see people as burdens, you know. So anyway, the first the first thing should be get out of debt, as soon as possible, get out of debt. And then your second thing should be gathering assets that that are going to last and going to add to your well-being. So like I've got a sewing machine. We don't owe on the sewing machine. I've got a stash of fabric. I can make things for our family for gifts and stuff. It saves us money. It's a nice thing. I see it as an asset. If something were to happen to me, my family could sell the machine. They could either use it or they could sell the machine and get money off of it. So that is an asset. It's money waiting. They might not get much out of it. The same way with Paul's tools and stuff and equipment. Those are assets. They could be sold. We might not get much out of them, but they are assets. And they're definitely assets that they're not costing anything. My sewing machine costs electricity. It is electric. It costs electricity to run, and I do need to, there's maintenance, and there's maintenance on Paul's equipment, and some of the tools need some maintenance, right? Um, so it depends on, I'm sure, how some of those people would. Whereas a book that I'm selling on Amazon, that's not costing me anything. Amazon lets me have that book up for free. We'll see how long that lasts because they change things. But, for every book that sells there on Amazon, they get a commission off of it. I get a majority of the royalties. They get a commission. So, but it doesn't necessarily cost me anything. It came out of my brain, went onto the paper, the computer, and is out there for whoever is interested to purchase, right? So that's nice, but I am not, even if I become a best-selling author, there's kind of unless I'm out doing, spending a whole lot of time and money doing a lot of promotional, speaking engagements and traveling to tell people about my books and stuff, I'm not going to make a whole ton of money off of those. I'm lucky if I make $15 a month off the books. So, I mean, just being honest here. Uh, it's just one of those things. So, but it doesn't cost me anything to have that up there, right? And so think about it that way. You know, what are your assets? Um, what, and what can be most efficient for you? If you've got an asset like a vehicle that you're spending more money working on all the time than actually being able to use properly, then it might be time to retire that one and come up with a different one, right? And there is that occasionally. But going into more debt than what we paid for our home doesn't make sense and doesn't make it an asset unless you've got that money to pay for it. You know, you don't want to go into that much. I mean, if it's worth less once you drive it off the lot than what you paid for it, that's an expense, not an asset. And that's how the IRS sees it too, is it is an asset if it has value, right? Basically, a tax person would go into more detail, I'm sure. So anyway, I hope this little, I don't even know what I'm going to call this video. I hope this little TED Talk has helped. Anyway, let me know what you think. What do you agree? What do you disagree? What other thoughts do you have? Should we go into more detail into like the economic and stuff? Or did this really, you know, makes sense. Let me know. I appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you later.